When I married Rubel Benson, I thought my life had finally settled. He was charming, kind, and promised to love me and my daughter, Queen, like his own. For years, things seemed perfect. We had family dinners, vacations, and long talks late into the night. Rubel would help Queen with homework and always brought her small gifts. I believed I had found a man who would protect us both. But little did I know, the love and trust one felt were only an illusion. Something was changing in our home. Queen started acting differently, secretive and distant. Rubel spent more time alone with her. I brushed it off as father-daughter bonding. I never imagined the truth that would shatter everything I knew. I was about to learn that not all family secrets can be forgiven. If you like our revenge stories, please subscribe for more. We drop powerful new stories every week, filled with truth, emotion, and justice. Don't miss the next one. And remember, some stories hurt, but they heal too. Subscribe now and join the journey. At first, I told myself I was imagining things, but the changes were too clear to ignore. Queen no longer talked to me the way she used to. She avoided eye contact and gave short answers when I asked about her day. Rubel started locking his phone and leaving the room to take calls. Sometimes I'd walk in and they would quickly stop talking, as if I had interrupted something private. I felt like an outsider in my own home. Nights became lonely because Rubel claimed he was working late. Yet his clothes smelled faintly of perfume that wasn't mine. My heart told me something was wrong, but my mind didn't want to believe it. I still thought he loved me. I still thought Queen was my little girl. I had no idea the truth was about to crush me. One rainy afternoon, I came home earlier than planned. The house was quiet, but something felt off. I went to the laundry room and noticed a silk scarf on the counter. It was bright red, nothing I owned. When I picked it up, I smelled Queen's perfume on it. My stomach tightened. Why would her scarf be here when she should be at school? I walked toward her room and saw the door half open. Inside, Rubel was sitting on her bed, looking at his phone. He jumped when he saw me and quickly made up an excuse about checking a loose window. Queen wasn't there, but the air felt heavy with secrets. My mind raced with questions I didn't want answered. That scarf became my first clue that my perfect family was slipping into something I could never accept. If you like our revenge stories, please subscribe for more. We drop powerful new stories every week, filled with truth, emotion, and justice. Don't miss the next one. And remember, some stories hurt, but they heal too. Subscribe now and join the journey. The next week, I overheard something that froze my blood. I was passing Queen's room when I heard her laughing softly with Rubel. Their voices were low, almost like they were sharing a secret. I leaned closer and caught Rubel saying, "Don't worry, she'll never find out." My chest tightened as Queen replied, "I know, it's our little thing." My hands shook. Were they talking about me? I stepped back quickly before they could notice I was there. That night, I asked Rubel if he was hiding anything. He smiled in that calm, practiced way and said, "You're imagining things, Samantha. Stop stressing." But his eyes didn't match his words. They looked guarded, like someone protecting a dangerous truth. I wanted to believe him, but the seed of doubt had been planted deep, and it was growing faster than I could control. It happened on a Saturday morning. I went to the market early, but halfway there, I realized I'd forgotten my wallet. I drove back home quietly, not wanting to wake anyone. As I stepped inside, I heard faint giggles coming from the living room. My heart pounded. I peeked through the doorway and froze. Rubel and Queen were sitting far too close, his hand resting on her thigh. The way they looked at each other made my stomach churn. Queen noticed me first, her smile vanishing. Rubel quickly pulled his hand away and stood up. "This isn't what it looks like," he said, but I knew. My world collapsed in that moment. The man I loved had crossed a line I never thought possible, and my own daughter was part of it. I felt betrayed by both blood and vows. After that day, the house became unbearable. I tried to confront Queen, but she avoided me completely. Rubel, instead of apologizing, accused me of twisting things and trying to break the family. His words cut deeper than I expected. One evening, he told me to pack my things. "You're making this house toxic," he said coldly. Queen stood beside him, her arms crossed, silently agreeing. I begged her to remember everything I had done for her. Raising her alone, protecting her, loving her. She looked at me like I was a stranger. That night, I left with only 2 bags and no idea where I'd sleep. Watching them close the door behind me was like watching my entire life disappear in one cruel motion. But as I walked away, I made a silent promise. This betrayal would not be the end of me. I stayed at a small motel on the edge of town. The room smelled of damp carpet, and the thin blankets barely kept out the cold. I cried for hours that first night, replaying everything in my head. My husband had betrayed me, and my own daughter had chosen him over me. The pain was sharp, but beneath it, something else began to grow: anger. I realized I had been too trusting, too forgiving. Rubel thought he had erased me from his life, but he underestimated me. I still had friends, contacts, and most importantly, the truth on my side. I started making calls, reaching out to people I could trust. This wasn't just about getting back what I lost. It was about making sure they felt the same emptiness and humiliation they had forced on me. My revenge had just begun. The next morning, I called my old friend Carla. We hadn't spoken in months, but when she heard my voice shake, she told me to come over right away. Carla lived in a small but warm apartment, filled with the smell of fresh coffee. I told her everything. How Rubel betrayed me and how Queen turned against me. Carla's eyes hardened. "You can't let them get away with this," she said. She offered me her spare room until I figured things out. More than that, she promised to help me. Carla worked at the town's records office, and she knew how to dig for information quietly. "If he's hiding something," she said, "we'll find it." For the first time in days, I felt a spark of hope. Maybe I had lost my home, but I hadn't lost my fight. Carla wasted no time. That afternoon, she pulled out her laptop and began searching public records. "People hide all kinds of things in plain sight," she said, typing quickly. We looked into Rubel's business filings, property records, and bank liens. At first, nothing stood out, until Carla found a list of joint assets I didn't even know existed. My name was still attached to several accounts, meaning I still had legal rights. Even better, one property was registered under both our names, though Rubel had told me years ago he sold it. My pulse quickened. If he lied about that, what else was he hiding? Carla leaned back and grinned. "If we keep going, we might find something big enough to ruin him completely." For the first time since being thrown out, I felt the power shift just slightly in my favor. The more we searched, the more I realized Rubel had built his life on lies. Carla found documents for a small lake house registered in both our names. He had never mentioned it to me. According to the files, it had been fully paid off 2 years ago. My mind raced. If my name was on the deed, he couldn't sell it without my consent. This could be my way back into stability, maybe even the first step in taking more from him than he took from me. Carla printed every document we found and handed me the stack. "These are your weapons," she said. I felt a surge of determination. Rubel thought I was powerless, but he had forgotten one thing. I was still legally his wife, and the law was about to become my greatest ally. Carla gave me the number of a lawyer she trusted, a sharp woman named Tanya Moore. When I met Tanya, she listened quietly as I told my story. Her face stayed calm, but her eyes narrowed at the mention of the lake house. "If your name is on the deed, that's a joint marital asset," she explained. "And if he's using marital funds for anything questionable, we can prove financial misconduct." I handed her the documents Carla had found. She flipped through them, nodding slowly. "This is good, but we'll need more. Bank statements, proof of his relationship with your daughter. Anything that shows moral or financial wrongdoing." Hearing someone speak with such confidence gave me a rush of hope. I wasn't just fighting for revenge anymore. I was fighting to reclaim my life and dignity. Tanya gave me a list of things to collect and Carla agreed to help. We started by tracking Rubel's social media. He wasn't smart enough to hide everything. In photos, I noticed the same gold watch on his wrist, one I'd seen in a jewelry store years ago but couldn't afford. I checked the date and realized it was bought after I was kicked out, likely with our joint funds. Carla also found bank statements showing large withdrawals from our shared account. The amounts matched the dates of expensive trips he posted online. My hands shook as I printed everything. Each piece of proof felt like another brick in the wall I was building against him. Tanya was right. We needed both financial and personal evidence. Soon, I would have enough to make Rubel wish he had never crossed me. While collecting evidence, I thought about someone who might know more. Our old neighbor, Mrs. Clara Woods. She had lived next door for years and saw almost everything that happened at our house. I called her, unsure if she'd even speak to me. To my surprise, she invited me over. Over tea, I told her what happened. Clara's lips tightened. I've seen things, Samantha. Things a stepfather shouldn't be doing with his stepdaughter. My stomach twisted, but I let her continue. She described moments when Rubel and Queen acted far too close, even when I wasn't around. Clara agreed to write a statement and testify if needed. Her words were painful to hear. But they were exactly what I needed. With Clara on my side, my case was no longer just my word against his. It was becoming undeniable truth. With Clara's statement in hand, Tanya said we had enough to make a move, but she wanted one last piece. Something that would corner Rubel completely. We need him to slip up, she explained. Carla suggested a setup. We would leak a small piece of information through someone Rubel still trusted, something to make him careless. I called him from a new number, pretending to be a bank officer. I told him there were concerns about joint accounts and property ownership. His reaction was exactly what I hoped, nervous and defensive. Hours later, Carla tracked several frantic calls he made to Queen. If we could record just one conversation, it would seal the case. Tanya prepared legal steps while I prepared myself emotionally. Rubel thought he had buried me, but he didn't know I was digging my way back, with a shovel full of his secrets. Carla's cousin Mark was skilled with tech. He set up a legal recording system through Clara's phone line since Rubel often called her to check if I'd been around. 2 days later, we got what we needed. Rubel called Clara, his voice sharp. Don't let Samantha near my things. If she finds out about Queen and me, everything's ruined. I froze when I heard it. He had just admitted it in his own words. Clara stayed calm and kept him talking, even getting him to mention trips they took without me knowing. Mark saved the recording, labeling it gold. My heart pounded as I realized the weight of what we had. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. It was undeniable proof. With that tape, Rubel's lies were no longer hidden. The next step was using it to destroy everything he thought he controlled. Tanya listened to the recording 3 times, her face unreadable. When it ended, she smiled faintly. This is it, she said. We can file for divorce, claim marital misconduct, and demand a full investigation into his finances. She explained that with proof of an inappropriate relationship and financial misuse, the court would likely grant me a large share of assets, possibly even sole ownership of the lake house. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from power returning to me. We prepared the paperwork that same day. Carla sat beside me as I signed each page, her hand steady on my shoulder. Rubel had taken my home, my trust, and my daughter's love, but now I had the tools to take back more than he ever expected. The strike was set. All that was left was to watch it land. The papers were delivered on a bright Tuesday morning. Tanya made sure they were served at Rubel's workplace so everyone could see. Carla and I waited in her car across the street. Through the glass doors, I watched a man in a suit hand Rubel the envelope. His face went pale, then red. He glanced around, embarrassed as curious co-workers stared. I almost felt sorry for him, almost. Moments later, my phone buzzed with a furious message from him. You'll regret this. I smiled to myself. No, Rubel, you're the one who will regret. The court date was set for 4 weeks later, giving us just enough time to gather the last bits of evidence. I knew he would try to fight back, but this time I wasn't the scared woman he threw out. I was ready to finish what he started. 2 days after Rubel was served, Queen called me. Her voice was sharp. Why are you doing this to him? You're ruining everything. I took a deep breath. Queen, he ruined everything when he crossed the line. She scoffed, accusing me of jealousy and lies. I wanted to scream, but instead I stayed calm. One day you'll see the truth, I said quietly. She hung up on me, but I could hear the uncertainty in her tone before the call ended. Carla reminded me that Queen was under his influence just like I once was. Still, her words hurt more than I expected. I had lost my daughter long before the legal fight began, but this battle wasn't just for me anymore. It was for the justice neither of them thought I'd dare to demand, and I wasn't backing down. The courtroom was cold. but my palms were warm with adrenaline. Ruble sat across from me, his lawyer whispering in his ear. Queen sat beside him, refusing to meet my eyes. Tanya opened with the financial records, showing how Ruble used our joint funds for lavish gifts and trips. Then she played the recording. His face drained of color as his own words filled the room. If she finds out about Queen and me, everything's ruined. Gasps spread through the audience. The judge's expression hardened. Ruble's lawyer tried to object, but the damage was done. Clara took the stand next, confirming what she had seen. Each testimony stacked higher against him, until the case looked unshakable. For the first time, Ruble looked small, like the control he once held over me was finally slipping through his fingers for good. The judge's voice was steady but firm. Given the evidence of marital misconduct, financial misuse, and inappropriate behavior, this court rules in favor of the petitioner, Samantha Ruble. My breath caught as she continued. You are awarded sole ownership of the lake house, 50% of all remaining marital assets, and restitution for funds taken without consent. Ruble's jaw tightened, his fists clenched under the table. Queen stared at the floor, her face unreadable. I felt a wave of relief and justice roll over me. This wasn't just about money. It was proof that the truth mattered. As the gavel came down, I knew this chapter of my life was closing, but the story wasn't over. Ruble had been publicly exposed, and I had the means to rebuild. Now it was time to decide exactly how far my revenge would go. Winning in court gave me power, but I wasn't finished. Ruble still had his business, the one he used to fund his secret life. Carla and I dug deeper into his company's records, finding unpaid taxes and shady deals hidden under fake names. With Tanya's guidance, we passed the information to the proper authorities, anonymously. Weeks later, news broke that Ruble's company was under investigation. Clients pulled out, and his reputation crumbled. Queen, once so proud to stand beside him, was suddenly nowhere to be seen in public with him. I didn't need to gloat or send a message. The headlines were doing it for me. I had taken my home, my assets, and now his name. For every night I cried alone in that motel, he was now living his own sleepless nights, haunted by the empire he built collapsing around him. It was late evening when my phone rang. The caller ID read Queen. I almost didn't answer, but something in me needed to hear her voice. She sounded different, quieter, almost broken. Mom, I didn't know it would get this bad, she said. I told her softly. You chose his side, Queen. Actions have consequences. She admitted Ruble had been angry and controlling, especially now that his business was falling apart. She wanted to come see me to talk things through. I agreed, but with caution. Part of me wanted my daughter back, yet another part remembered the sting of her betrayal. Carla warned me not to let emotions cloud my judgment. She might be sincere, she said, or she might just be running from his sinking ship. Either way, I knew this meeting would decide what kind of future we'd have, if any. Queen arrived the next afternoon, looking nothing like the confident girl who once stood against me. Her hair was unkempt, and her eyes were red from crying. She stepped inside and hesitated before speaking. I'm sorry, Mom. I was wrong. The words were soft, but they carried weight. She explained how Ruble had turned cold, blaming her for his troubles and isolating her from friends. I thought he loved me, she whispered, but he just wanted control. I listened quietly, my heart torn between anger and relief. I told her that forgiveness wouldn't come overnight, but I was willing to start with honesty. We talked for hours, breaking the silence that had grown between us. By the time she left, I knew one thing. Whether or not we fully healed, Ruble had lost the one person he thought would always stand by him. The final piece of my revenge came unexpectedly. The tax investigation into Ruble's company revealed years of fraud. Authorities froze his accounts and seized several properties. Reporters swarmed his office, and his face was splashed across every news channel. Carla and I watched from her living room, sipping coffee like it was just another day. Queen sent me a short message, "It's over." I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. Ruble was now bankrupt, disgraced, and alone. Every asset he once flaunted was gone, and the people who had once praised him now avoided his calls. I didn't dance or cheer. I simply felt peace settle over me. He had taken my home, my trust, and my daughter's loyalty, but in the end, I took everything that truly mattered to him. And I did it without ever raising my voice. Months later, the storm had passed. Rubel was a shadow of the man who once controlled everything. Queen and I rebuilt our bond slowly. She stayed with me more often, helping with small things around the house, asking about my day. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Carla became my closest friend, and together, we started a small business decorating events. The work gave me purpose, and the income was ours alone, untouched by lies or greed. Sometimes I'd walk by the old office building and see Rubel sitting outside, staring at nothing. I never approached him. My revenge had never been about watching him suffer. It was about reclaiming my power. I had my home, my peace, and a future built on my own terms. And that was the sweetest victory of all. I was free, and I intended to stay that way forever. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more powerful narratives, and share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear what part hit you the hardest. Thanks for watching.